All right, guys. So I've got a quick video on motivation. So today I was struggling with a particular topic. So I consider myself highly motivated, enthusiastic kind of a person. So but generally I don't struggle with that. But today I had an issue. Recently I've started to kind of reorient myself for like more disciplined exercise and stuff like that because I want a little bit of transformation. I think COVID, though it's gone for a while, I think that whole 2 3 years or something like that, that was a big dud in terms of health and stuff like that. So now I'm finally kind of feeling motivated, but there's one layer of motivation and then there's several layers of motivation like the further you go, right? So this is to do with like so the big question is, I think I'll see if I can post this in some kind of health or fitness, not fitness, but really, yeah, maybe fitness, maybe body, whatever body works kind of groups, and see if I get any responses on that too. But let's go into the motivation first. So I wanted to really, so I was thinking about it, like, how do I get motivated about it? And while I was thinking about it, it kind of occurred to me that, motivation is, it's quite an important factor to start with, right? So I first looked at the definition, and maybe I'll share that before I go into the thought that I have. I mean, the etymology and the technical meaning of motivation. I mean, the Latin movere, which means to move, basically, right? So there are old texts where the word the move, in him we have our being, and move and stuff like that, and so there's a lot of, like, what do you call, contextual meanings. But in all these definitions and in all these different texts, I mean, for me to just kind of realize this and then wanting to make a video about it, it just kind of tells me that it's kind of, the meaning is lost a lot, okay, though it's there in other ways and forms. But when you talk about motivation itself, it's generally not. So I thought it'll be a good idea to make a quick video for anybody out there who's actually struggling to find motivation, and kind of, maybe that's what brought you to this video, hopefully. And the motivation refers to the internal external forces or factors that drive a person to take actions, making decisions, move towards a goal. It is the movement of the mind and will that compels someone to initiate, a behavior. So my, struggle today was about, like, so I've laid out a schedule, and today being Saturday, I'm supposed to do my back muscles and my triceps, right? Which I don't have a lot of, but I haven't really worked out. I mean, generally, if I start working out, this whole area becomes really, like, kind of swollen, and and it's kind of half its size it used to be. But I'm okay with that. I mean, it doesn't really look good on me, frankly speaking. Too big of shoulders, and the arms especially kind of just get big. So coming back to it, so I was like, okay, why do I need to do that? I even asked one of my friends, what because he works out a lot. I mean, he used to. I don't know if he still does, but you know we are we are far apart. But I asked him, like, if he knows more than this. So anyways, let's get back to the motivation aspect about, why. So I was asking myself, why do I need to do these back muscles? I mean, I'm pretty strong. I mean, not the strongest, but I'm actually pretty strong, physically strong. I mean, I've done things, and where I've demonstrated that I've got, like, some kind of a strength that is unusual, basically, okay, over the period during the sports times. And otherwise it's so I'm not in a bad situation. But I do spend a lot of time in front of the computer, kind of, over the years, I mean, decades, basically. So I mean, posture is one of the things. So I mean, coming back to the motivation, so I was trying to think about, like, why do I need to do this? I mean, I don't want to become this buff guy with this huge back or something like that. That's not my thing. But so I was like, why? But I do need to do it. I know that, because I need to kind of reorganize my body, kind of, in terms of fitness. Get it back, and maybe better than it was, before, ever, maybe. Um, but why? So I kind of thought about it. So to find motivation, so this whole thought then occurred to me because I was like, I'm always thinking about a reason. I need my reason. So I was thinking about to find motivation to do something, right, is to find the why of doing something, right? So you need to ask, like, if you're like me today and you're like looking for motivation and you're like, why? That why is the question. Why do I need to do that? Now, sometimes you have a task, and I know people are like, I don't feel like doing that, and they don't do it. I mean, even me today, I was 3 hours behind schedule. I was supposed to have my back workout in the morning and my triceps in the afternoon, but I just kind of pretty much procrastinated my whole morning. I mean, not really. I was working and I ran and I swam a little bit, and but then when it came down to this, I didn't have the motivation. Like, I didn't have my why. Why do I need to do this? I mean, I'm not really, so because of my sports and all, experience in sports and all that stuff. I mean, I know I have reasons, but I'm not exposed to any, imminent danger, so to speak, mostly. And if I did, I mean, I'm not in a bad shape. I mean, of course, you get slammed on, concrete, and then you're gonna get really hurt bad. But I mean, I've done that for years over time, and it's kind of inbuilt, so to speak. But then, so what do I do with this, right? So anyways, let's get back to the motivation, right? So to find the why, you really need to know why you would do it. And you might have seen in some movies, because I was thinking about it, there are like almost like villainish, Machiavellian kind of characters who are like, what is in it for me, right? And that makes it sound very selfish, because they generally put it in the words of the mouths of such people. um, that what is in it for me, that is your why. Like, why should I do this, and what is in it for me, right? Like, okay, like somebody says, go do the dishes, but if you don't tell them the why, like if you want to motivate somebody, you give them their why. And that's what made me think about it. So I'll give you an example that I was thinking about. So, um, is it that, what is the why that I come up with? So, for example, in this particular case, I started researching about, okay, why do I need to do back muscle? So there was like this and that and the other. And usually when you see all these competitions, you just see amazing backs and all that stuff, right? And you're like, okay, I mean, sure, I don't want that. I mean, I don't need that, really, frankly speaking. I mean, I'm not competing for anything. So I read through material, and there was this concept where it says that your back muscles, the stronger back muscles you have, it increases your lung capacity, because your rib cage is able to kind of expand more, and you're able to draw in more air. So lung capacity is increased. I mean, that's important for me, because I love swimming. But you know but but still, I mean, I was like, how does my back muscle, having a bulky back muscle, give me more lung capacity? So then there was like, there were more details to it. Like, you've got this, the tendon and muscles, segment that goes kind of snakes up along your spine, and that's one of like 4 or 5 muscle groups in the back that, it kind of supports the spine. And because of that, it is able to kind of, maybe, another part of the muscle keeps your upper back upright. So when you're breathing and your diaphragm is kind of, contracting, it's kind of getting pushed down, you're at the same time, your upper chest, the lung capacity, and it kind of pushes forward, and kind of, you got a better posture, and blah 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 blah. All these were the reasons. But then I still was like, I mean, my lung capacity, I would like to have my lung capacity increase, but I just don't understand how having a strong back muscle helped me have more lung capacity. I mean, even though I read about it, I wasn't able to wrap my head around it. There were people, with some kind of, there are diagrams and all that stuff. I looked at, and I'm not totally I mean, yeah, it makes sense, but it didn't really like make sense. The assumption there is your back muscles are able to kind of stand up on their own, instead of your bone, you know, so, and actually support your bones, right? So that's kind of strange. So, anyways, the whole thing is about motivation, right? Um, So here's an example though of motivation, because okay, so again, it's the whole point of making the video is going a little deeper and then trying to get more and more articulation and definition on the idea of motivation, the why, right? So it's not just a why, okay? It is a the why, and the why because it is something to do specifically with your why. So I'll give you an example because I was thinking about it and I was like, if I say that, I'll give you 10, what do you call, walk for me 10 miles, or walk 10 miles, and I'll give you $1, right? And so would you do that? You probably won't do that, right? Now, would you do that if I said, okay, walk 10 miles, I'll give you $1,000, right? Would you do that? Maybe, right? What if I said I give you $1 and walk 10 miles and you've got $1,000 in your pocket? Would you do that? No, right? So it really depends on all these things. So for example, if you're like you're in a post-apocalyptic world, and I come across you and you're in the middle of nowhere where there's no food. The whole thing is just kind of decimated, right? And I tell you, I'll give you $1, right? Or walk 10 miles and I'll give you a piece of meat, okay? And would you do that? Probably, if you're starving and there's nothing around, no leaves, nothing, it's just like dry, parched land, right? And I tell you, walk 10 miles, or I kind of send you a message and say, walk 10 miles, I'll give you a piece of meat when you get to the 10 miles. Would you do that? You probably will die trying, right? So there is the difference between your why, right? What if I gave you $1? Walk 10 miles, I'll give you $1, but or you think that there is nowhere you can exchange that dollar for a piece of bread or meat for another 100 miles. Would you do that? Probably not. So it all comes on like, your why and what your belief is, what your assumptions are at that point, right? So you may think there is no place to exchange that dollar for a meat or for a piece of bread, but maybe there is. You just don't know about it, right? But you assume, and you therefore incorrectly, your motivation is not there, right? So those are the permutation combinations of, finding your why. So in order to find your why, it has to satisfy a need. Okay, so if you've got plenty of food and I give you an apple to walk 10 miles, you're not going to do that, right? It has to meet a specific need of. If you want to motivate somebody, if you want to motivate a girl to be, kind of going out with you, you've got to answer a need. Like you got to like show her why being with you is going to be good for her, for example, right? So, and you've got a lot of, stories about how that happens, but stuff like that, right? So, um, and in any area of your life, like what is your specific why? So, I mean, the bottom line of this video basically was that, to have your motivation, to find motivation, you need to find out why you need to do it, and that meaning has that reason has to be convincing enough for you, so that you are convinced and you believe that doing that is going to meet a particular need that satisfies you. It's not just like just eating an apple, but it's like you've got nothing else but that apple, so you're going to do whatever you can to get that apple, right? So you can think about it a lot. But anyways, I do want to know if any of you are into athletics or in physical training, or you've been through, or in medical profession, whatever. What do you think about this whole concept of, having stronger back muscles giving you a significantly different lung capacity? I don't know how to measure lung capacity right now. I'll probably try to, but or maybe your inhaled chest, how much it is, and I don't know. So I need to still find out. So if you have any data, any research, or any experience, like you said, hey, you know what, I had this issue or whatever, and then I started doing my, once I started working out and my back got strong, I was able to do something else that was significantly different, right? Or I felt significantly different. I'd like to know, because I'm still trying to kind of figure out, my why for it. One more thought there was that you just simply go and do it, even though you're not finding the motivation. And maybe, so that's like almost throwing yourself at it without motivation. You would maybe realize something and then be like, oh, hold on a second, now I found my motivation. So maybe you don't have motivation, but just by doing it, you find the motivation or the reason, like your why, you find it. For me, I did go and work, did my already my back exercises for today, and it just felt like time flew by. Okay, like if I had spent the same amount of time, training any other part of my body, like maybe my biceps or something, or even my chest, right? It would, at the end of the session, I would be like feeling like, okay, I think I did it. But for this, it just felt like nothing, right? So the back is a huge muscle group, right? It's probably the biggest one in the body. But so anyway, so that's the thought. So I'd like to get any comments, of course, on motivation. Do you think, that's the essence of motivation, finding your why. And then if you're from like your, athletics and stuff like that, then something about your experience with your stronger back, if you were able to acquire one. Okay. So anyways, take care and see you in the next one.